everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Student Strong Statewide Candidate Forum. My name is Jamie,
And
and
I'm
I am.
Christina. We're your co-hosts, and we're super excited to see all of you here tonight.
Yes, it is awesome to see you all. So, before we jump in, we're going to go over quickly some ground rules.
For sure, just a few reminders, be respectful, treat everyone kindly, and listen actively. No interrupting, stay engaged, keep your videos on, but mics off. Use the chat thoughtfully. Feel free to share questions and comments, but let's keep it on topic and respectful.
And of course, the most important part is to have fun. This is a great chance to learn and connect with so many other Michiganders who also care about education. And you can also help out by volunteering for our Education Justice Get Out the Vote phone bank. The link for that will be in the chat, so you can invite your friends and your family to support Michigan students and schools.
Speaking of learning, did you know today is a special day? It's October 21st, 2024, the day early voting begins.
Exactly. You can finally start casting your ballots in person today. And for those of you who just turned 18, congratulations on your first big vote. Be sure to get out there, take your power, do us proud. I know that I will be this year.
And here's something cool. In Michigan, you can register to vote as early as 16. Students like us are the future voters, so it's important you're here today too.
And just to review, here are some upcoming election dates that you will need to know. For starters, the absentee ballot requests are due by November 1st at 5 p.m.
And don't forget, November 5th is the last day to vote, but there's a lot of resources Michigan has to make this process easier and more accessible.
Like Michigan has absentee ballots available, and you can submit them in your local drop box. Please, at this point, don't try to mail in any ballots in your regular mail because it's so close to the election. It might not get there in time. Dropping them off will be the best option. And remember that all absentee ballots must be dropped off by 8 p.m. on election day in order to be counted.
Every vote matters, and it's your chance to help us shape the future for good. Take our Education Justice Voters Pledge, also found in the chat. Public school funding is on the ballot in Michigan, and we say every student deserves access to good public education, no matter who they are. And you can sign up to phone bank with MEJC around school board races across the state. Link is in the chat.
So here at the MEJC Youth Collective, our largest goal, oh, our largest goal is to make sure that every student in Michigan gets the education that we deserve. We really believe that having a fair and supportive education system is the key to a better future for all of us. And we've got students from all over. We've got people in Detroit, Holt, Lansing, from Saginaw to Grand Rapids to Ann Arbor, Ypsi, and then even some people from Sault Ste. Marie up in the UP. And together we formed this youth group with a vision to create a school system where every Michigan student has the resources, the support, and the freedom to succeed and make a positive impact.
Hey everyone, we wanted to take a moment to explain why we named this event Student Strong.
It represents all of us, students from all over Michigan. As we've shared our stories, we've realized that the issues that we face in our schools aren't just local, they're happening everywhere.
When we come together, we can build real power and shape our futures. And this election is our chance to show that collective strength by getting out to vote. Every vote counts, and your voice matters.
So we want to encourage you to motivate your friends, your family, and even your teachers, anyone to vote too. Because the more people that we can get involved, the stronger that our impact will be.
You're not alone in this fight. We're all in it together. So let's make our voices heard and show the power we have when we vote together. We are truly strong.
So, with that, let's take a second just to see who is in the room with us. We would like to thank the following candidates for coming out tonight and speaking. And if there are any other candidates here that are running for local districts, please put that in the chat and shout out your city or district. We would love to give y'all that appreciation. So, from our state school board, we have Adam Zemke, Scotty Bowman, Ted Gerard, and Theodore Jones. From the Board of Trustees, we have from MSU, we have John Anthony La Pietra. We have from WSU, Sunny Reddy. And from UMich, we have Donna Oatman.
All right, everyone. Now let's hear from our statewide candidates. Just a
Y'all give
quick
me
heads
just
up.
a, can y'all give me just a minute? I'm trying to spotlight folks. If you're one of the statewide candidates, can you raise your hand? I'm not able to find everyone. So I see Adam, I see John. All right, Dr. Jones, let me find you in there. And if you'll have to turn on your camera in order for me to spotlight you, that might be part of the problem as well. Okay, you're good, Dr. Jones. You can lower your hand. Let's see, Ted Gerard, are you on here? All right, if people see Ted Gerard, Scotty, I see you. Okay, let me find you here. Thank you all. Sorry, Scotty, it's not letting me spotlight you because your camera's not on, I don't think. But that's okay. You don't have to have it on. You won't be able to be spotlighted for viewers.
And as Lindsay is getting everything together, I do just want to once again thank our candidates for coming out today, listening to our student stories, and really taking the time to really listen and hear our student questions. And yeah, and Lindsay, you let me know when you got everybody spotlighted.
I think
Um,
we're good. I think it looks like we're missing Donna, um, Sonny, and Ted.
okay, no
Is that
problem.
correct?
I
Come on.
think Ted is here.
There's Ted is here. Ted Gerard is here.
Oh, no, not Gerard. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Mhm.
We got two Teds. All right. All right, let's get going then.
All right. Just a quick heads up. Each candidate will have a limited time to answer, so please watch for our time cues. From Erica. Erica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Erica Vanier, and I'm the youth organizer for the Student Advocacy Center of Michigan. And I want to thank you all for being here. Also, I just want to give you the heads up. If you see this means that you have 10 seconds left to respond to your questions, and I will be your timekeeper today. Thank you.
All right, candidates, when it's your turn, please come on camera and give us a quick intro before we start the timer for your first question.
So remember, you will have 2 minutes for the first question and then 1 extra minute for any follow-up questions. And we will give you that 30-second warning, or sorry, that 10-second warning.
And if you go over your time, we may have to mute you, but feel free to continue answering in the chat with the audience.
And to the audience, we do ask that you stay muted during this time, but please don't be afraid to use the chat for constructive comments and conversation. And for our first question, we have Samantha Ringgold.
Hi, my name is Samantha Ringgold, and I attend Saginaw Arts and Science Academy in Saginaw, Michigan. We'll start with the State Board of Education candidate, Scotty, then Ted, Adam, and Theodore, followed by a Board of Trustees candidate, John, Donna, and lastly, Sunny. For the first question, what are your priorities when it comes to Michigan public schools?
So Scotty, I think you're up first.
Just don't be afraid to take a moment to introduce yourself, and then we will start the time for your answer to the question.
Scotty, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Do y'all want to, can other people hear Scotty? Is it just me or is
I cannot hear Scotty.
No.
Sorry, Scotty.
And
do
if
you
you
want
don't,
to move
I was
on?
gonna say, yeah, if y'all don't mind us moving on, and then if your audio
Can you hear
issue,
me now?
oh my gosh,
We
yeah,
can.
it's a
Okay.
miracle.
It was because there were two different controls in here. Okay. Hello, I'm Scotty Bowman. I wish to be your voice on the Michigan Board of Education. I've been a professional educator since the 1980s. I'm a certified teacher with 2 master's degrees. I have experience with public and private colleges, as well as public and private K-12 schools. My in-depth experience with education from preschool through graduate school gives me a unique perspective. I don't just view education in a vacuum, but rather see the need to separate it from systemic violence inherent in government. While this is not something a Board of Education member can accomplish directly, I can at least make recommendations and suggest guidelines that will accomplish a more choice-driven, less aggressive, less centralized approach. Control of public schools should never have been taken from local communities and placed under the control of politicians in a distant capital like Lansing. The more removed decision makers are from the classroom, the less responsive they will be to the needs of individual students. Centralized control leads to cookie cutter curricula that are pushed as one size fits all. This neglects the diversity of student learning styles and backgrounds. Assimilation is not liberation. I will support flexible policies that empower local schools, educators, and homeschoolers to adapt to the needs and aspirations of students. I have a courage to think outside the box and won't be paying lip service to federally subsidized political correctness fads like Common Core or man-made global warming alarmism. I won't be adopting Orwellian newspeak whereby common teasing is called bullying in order to make protected speech sound violent. Schools should stick to their roles as educational institutions and not be used as instruments of medical orthodoxy. I would author guidelines to encourage respect for parental choice on matters of vaccinations, prescriptions for psychological conditions, and alternative treatments like medical marijuana. While rare mass shootings have heightened concern over student safety, given that over 90% of such tragedies happen in so-called gun-free zones, I will urge legislators to remove restrictions on CPL holders who prohibit them from carrying concealed weapons in schools and other favorite targets of terrorists who wish to avoid armed resistance. I believe schools should be able to set their own weapon policies rather than having them mandated by politicians.
Thank you, Scotty. Next, can we get Adam, please?
Yes, and my video appears to be frozen on my end, so just checking. Is my audio okay?
Audio's great.
Okay. So I'm Adam Zemke. I am running for the State Board of Education. Really appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight. Sorry about the conflicting forums that are happening as well, but certainly reach out to me via my campaign website if you have questions at all. And I'm happy to talk on the phone or chat via Zoom or whatever. I've been working on education policy for over a decade. I was a member of the Michigan House of Representatives for 6 years, from 2013 to 2018, and really the Democratic caucus's main point person on education. I'm very passionate about it. It's a big part of the reason that I left the legislature and started working on education policy as a private citizen and as a member of Ford Motor Company's STEM education team, and then through subsequent coalitions. Part of the reason I'm passionate about it is because I believe that the best kind of educational experiences are those that inspire kids to learn. I witnessed this firsthand when I was in college, and I worked on projects where we would go into public schools and help students apply their knowledge to mathematics and science, which is my background. I saw that firsthand, that aha moment where you get excited about something, and I understand the power of that. And so I feel that is ultimately the number one reason for public education. It really helps us live up to the promise of public education. I'll also say that the current state of Michigan's public education system is deeply inequitable. Even though we have improved funding across all public schools, we have not we're nowhere near what research says we need to be. And we also lack concerted vision to close equity gaps across the state from district to district. Because at the end of the day, while I support the idea that more money is needed, I also support the idea that we need to invest it properly. So I'm very, very big into creating a vision that takes into account our diverse perspectives in communities across different communities across the state, and weaving it forward so that we can live up to what I feel is the promise of public education, the opportunity for all high school students to be able to pursue whatever it is that they want to pursue after they graduate. And we have an obligation as a state, in my opinion, to guarantee that opportunity. And so that is very much a direct role of the State Board of Education, and I'm excited to get back involved. I have a great running mate in Ted Jones, who has some different experiences that complement my own, and certainly look forward to talking with you more. I will say one thing that even though my main focus is on establishing this vision and closing equity gaps, I also want to establish the fact that at the end of the day, the first and foremost, before we can tackle any of those things, we have to address the fact that we need to ensure all students and staff and faculty are safe in our schools. We need to ensure that students feel and are included, and that we have inclusive environments. And to that end, I strongly believe guns have no business being anywhere near a school, and I want to establish that as a firm response here. So, thank you.
All right, well, I'll jump right in. Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Jones. I'm running for the State Board of Education along with my great running mate, Adam Zemke. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a former teacher, school social worker. I worked in the legislature for a state representative who was on the education committee, and I also worked for 6 years as a central office administrator for Detroit Public Schools Community District. So I've had the opportunity to see education from a lot of great angles, from the classroom to the psychological issues that our students face, to policy making at the state level, to just the intricacies that are involved in running a school district and delivering a high quality education. So I'm running for this office because education is something that I am deeply passionate about, and it's something that's very personal to me. The story of my family is not only are we a family of educators, but the reason why we were able to go from poverty to the middle class in one generation, it was because of education. Namely, my grandfather being able to work his way through college, through getting his master's degree to getting a doctorate in education, like myself, to go from poverty to the middle class, and we've stayed there ever since. And that's the power of education, and it's a power that I believe we are losing here in Michigan. Just going back to the question, what would be my main priorities? It really is ensuring that we're turning back this chronic disinvestment that we've had in education over the last few decades. We used to spend $5 billion more on education in 2008. Back then, we were ranked 28th in the nation. We are now spending, $5 billion less each year, and we are now 41st in the nation when it comes to education. So I really want to make sure that I'm being a tireless advocate for increasing education funding at the state level. I think that is going to ensure that students have the best chance in life to have a great start when they have school buildings, the curriculum, and the teachers really needed to deliver a high quality education. I also want to make sure that we're fully recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, it has had deleterious effects on not only social development, but developmental delays. So making sure that we're putting into place high quality wraparound services for children to be able to have psychological support, behavioral support, as well as the strategies that are going to be able to be effective, such as increased tutoring and making sure that we're putting into place small group instruction. I really do believe that guns do not belong anywhere near school as well. We have allowed this wanting to protect the Second Amendment to the detriment of just basic safety to go on for far too long. So I will be a tireless advocate to ensure that we are fully putting into place gun-free zones, as well as making sure that our school buildings are fully protected. But also, I really want to make sure that you as students have a voice in how our government at the state level delivers education. So I want to make sure that I am fighting and coalition building around putting into place a ballot initiative that will make the Constitution to give every student the right to a high quality education. I think with that accountability measure, students, communities, parents, they can take our state government to court, say that you're not living up to your responsibility, and that's going to improve education for all of us. So, thank you so much. And, this really takes me back. I was also a community organizer back in the day with Molly, and we were community organizing in Detroit Public Schools community district. So, this action, keep us accountable, please. I really want to make sure, if elected, you all have the ability to contact me, and I will put my phone number into the chat. So please feel free to call me at any time. Thank you very much.
And last but not least, could we get John, please?
Unmute here, sorry. Been so busy listening. My name is John Anthony La Pietra. I'm the Green Party candidate for a seat on the board of trustees of Michigan State University. It may seem a natural partnership there somehow, but in any case, the Green Party has a special interest in this race, partly because of what happened last February and partly because of what's been happening to students ever since, in particularly since October of last year. Personally, I've been a teacher and a tutor as part of 4 careers, and I don't want to take too much time with my own personal introduction, though I do want to say that I have 2 daughters, one not quite 10 and one just turning 3.5. And I want to be sure that Michigan State University is a place I'd be proud to send them and feel confident that they'll be safe going. I will put my introductory flyer, 1 page, and I'll upload a link of that in the chat in a moment. And I will also put up a link to the state Green Party's platform. Just one quick excerpt from that. The guaranteed income will help our families stay in their homes and lives. Tuition-free education and training will give workers new skills for new jobs. Increasing the $9,608 per pupil school allowance, investing more in skilled trades training, will lead to fewer people in prison at $48,000 a year. Can we learn to use other tools than violence to resolve conflicts? Can we live within the limits of the natural world and stop destroying our environment? We can if we think green. I would add that students are, for me, the top priority in any school system. They have to be. Schools are for you first. Next, for your parents and teachers and staff, they can help you. Then, for our nation and society overall, and not particularly for businesses. If they want to teach you something, they can teach you, they can help you learn, but it's up to you to decide what you want out of your education. I think that will be enough of an introduction. As I say, I'll put some links in the chat.
Thank you. And we have another student question.
Hi, so my name is Jay Johnson. I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, as you can see on the slide. So the next questions we have is for the candidates of the state school board. So each of you will get have 1 minute to respond to this question. So we're going to start with Ted Jones, and then we're going to move to Adam Zink. So the question we have for you today, the teacher crisis is still an issue, and I'm planning on becoming a teacher. I'm planning on going to Purdue University for gifted education. And my question is, how can we improve conditions for teachers to stay in the profession for the long term and retain a more diverse teaching staff?
All right. Well, Jay, thank you so much for hearing that call and wanting to be an educator. So I think, part of this, of course, is making sure that we are increasing education funding in our state. When we can increase education funding, we can pay teachers what they deserve to be paid, have a living wage, invest in their professional development, and make sure that we are, fully retaining as many teachers as possible into the profession. So I would say increased pay, making sure that we're investing in their professional development, and making sure also that we're going to non-conventional areas as well to recruit teachers, especially teachers of color. So I would suggest, for instance, one thing that we did in Detroit Public Schools was we actually sent recruiters down to historically Black colleges. I think that would be something that I would champion as well at the state level for all of our school districts.
I think I'm up next. Is that right, Jay? All right. Jay, thank you again for the question. And I second Dr. Jones's appreciation for your career pursuit. It is very important. So I have participated in a number of research studies over the years, and there are two things that educators who've responded, and there have been over 25,000 teachers who have responded to these surveys, have indicated. Number one is treating teachers as professionals. And when you unpack that, you ask the respondents to unpack that, they tell you several things. They tell you that they want to be supported. They want career pathway opportunities, so they don't have to leave teaching and become an administrator if they choose to stay in teaching. They want additional opportunity to advance without having to leave the classroom. And then number two is compensation. So as Dr. Jones illustrated, the compensation base minimums in Michigan are very low by comparison, but the upper bounds are also too low by comparison. So if you look at what high-performing education systems, how they address compensation for teachers in other countries, they benchmark their teaching salaries to similar salaries with equal.
All right, that is going to be our time. I'm so sorry. We are giving an extra minute for follow-up questions, though. If anyone has any follow-up questions, don't be afraid to drop them in the chat. My follow-up question, and you guys will both have some time to answer it, would be, what specific measures do you guys think would be important to take in order to diversify teaching staff?
Yep. So, one of the things I mentioned was making sure that we're going about finding non-traditional areas to recruit teachers as well. So, reaching out to Black colleges, historically Black colleges, to recruit teachers in their programs, going around the state and being very intentional as well about having this as a career pathway for underrepresented communities. I think those are two great ways. And a third even is making sure, can we create a pathway within schools, especially in urban schools, to bring students into considering teaching as a profession, and then having them come back and teach at those schools as well.
Thank you so much. And then it looks like we missed Scotty on the lineup for answering this question as well. So if you wanted to jump in with your answer on how we could improve conditions for teachers to stay in the profession more long term and retaining a diverse staff, go ahead. Don't be shy.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay.
Great. There isn't a shortage of qualified people, but many teachers leave K-12 instruction due to problems with the school environment. Over the years, I've seen classroom culture deteriorate, with many students believing they can do whatever they want without facing real consequences. Unfortunately, they're often right. Disruptive students are rarely expelled. The right of disruptive students to an education shouldn't outweigh their classmates' rights to learn. Smaller class sizes and better handling of chronically disruptive students could improve teacher retention. Managing fewer students allows teachers to address individual needs more effectively. It's a proven method used with special needs students. If students' behavior prevents others from learning, they should be removed, not denied education, but placed in environments better suited to their needs. This could include specialized schools, tutoring, or virtual instruction. Sometimes a school isn't the right fit for a student, which is why institutional diversity is crucial.
Thank you so much. And then we are going to ask that follow-up question. First, we'll pass it back to Theodore Jones of specifically diversifying staff.
I thought I answered it.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. My bad.
We're on Adam.
I meant Adam Zemke. That was my apologies.
That's okay. So I would say that you need targeted and intentional recruitment strategies, like Dr. Jones identified. That's really part of the key. And certainly HBCUs are one avenue, but I would also say that another avenue that could be very helpful is there are a lot of quote unquote grow your own career pathway programs being employed locally to bring community members into teaching roles and into para roles, and expanding those and being intentional with your targeting to expand diversity is probably what my immediate response would be. I think the reality is that for far too long in public education in Michigan, we have allowed ourselves to sort of not be as intentional as we need to be. And so that has resulted in is sort of the system that we have today, where we do not have the degree of diversity that we would like. And historically, especially teaching as a profession, it was much more, the pipeline to teaching was much more focused on women, and women were discouraged from other pipelines. And so we need to change that as well. So there are a number of things, but the bottom line is that we have to be intentional with the way we handle our approaches in order to attain greater diversity.
Thank you so much. And then Scotty Bowman, if you wanted to answer that follow-up, what measures do you think specifically could be taken in order to diversify teachers?
Well, I think one is to diversify the schools themselves. And I've, in my introduction, brought up the matter of institutional independence. We used to have more options as far as the particular leaderships of schools, the styles of education, prior to the state taking control of funding and trying to put out a one size fits all package for all districts all over the state. And not even just regular districts, but even extending into the charter schools. And I think of diversifying the schools would leave people with more options and would attract faculty from a variety of greater backgrounds, as well as, of course, also being very careful to not leave anybody out as far when you open up your, your recruitment efforts. It should be as broad as possible and cast as wide a net as possible to avoid missing anybody.
All right, thank you so much. If we're ready to move on to the next question, we can move on to Micah with another question for every candidate.
Thank you, Jay. And I think you'll make a great teacher. This question's for everyone. We'll have John, Adam, Scotty, and then Theodore. The question is, what would you do to ensure Michigan schools and colleges are a safe place, both physically and mentally, for people of color, queer folks, immigrants, and tribal youth?
I'm entirely expecting to be first on that, but here we go. I think that there is some progress yet to be made on gun safety for all. That's why I've made a voter and a candidate pledge to support the agenda of Moms Demand Action and End Gun Violence in Michigan. The main plank of their platform that has yet to be implemented and to watch how it works to see how we can make it better is to end laws that shielding the gun industry from liability for any irresponsible practices that cause harm or death. Gun owners, I know there are groups here, right around here in Calhoun County and across the state, talking about responsible gun ownership, and I welcome that. But I also think there needs to be the option, at least, the possibility of responsibility for what is done with someone's gun. And I would actually extend that to law enforcement officers, because if they want authority, they need to show responsibility too. So maybe we should at least temper some of the protection they get from qualified immunity and special officers' bills of rights. Of course, not all safety risks come from violence or guns, as the people of Michigan and particularly the MSU community knows. Students have to have a clear path to report abuses, even a voice in oversight. All students should be safe, but some students face greater risks and problems than others, and we have to pay attention to that, while being aware that hate speech as a category has been fairly well defined by the courts and held in some check, so that unless hate speech actually does cause some harm, it is not as much of a liability as some people would claim.
Thank you. And then Adam, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. Thank you for this question, Micah. So I would say just on the category around pure school safety, I too support the platform that Moms Demand Action and Sandy Hook Promise and other similar organizations promote. I believe in reducing gun violence and keeping schools free from guns. I don't believe that arming teachers or educators is a solution to solving this problem, or frankly, more guns at all is a solution to solving this problem. So that's number one. But I think the question was beyond that too, beyond school safety and trying to create a more inclusive environment. And that means addressing mental health issues as an additional category. And it also means that we need to, as a method of inclusivity, we need to educate ourselves and ensure that all students are educated about the differences between people, the cultural differences, the differences around gender identity, and that we respect one another as different individuals and respect that diversity. And at the end of the day, schools are all about education. This is about educating one another, and that is part of the solution as well.
Yeah, I would say first off, we need to make sure that our schools are gun-free zones, that we're ensuring that guns are not coming in to any part of the school environment, on the property, etc. We need to put into place those measures that are going to ensure that schools are protected from gun violence. So that looks like I'm not in favor of making our schools have a deeper relationship with police departments because just for a host of factors of police departments are not exactly equipped to deal with the unique challenges and needs of our students, but making sure that we have funding for security at each and every our schools. And of course, DEIB is something that I have a deep interest in. We need to have these courageous conversations and make sure that we're creating an environment where students and parents, community members can have an open dialogue and really work together to, achieve inclusivity in our school environments.
Yeah, thank you. And then, Scotty, it's your turn when you're ready.
Yep. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Equal protection under the law is required by the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And the Michigan Civil Rights Initiative prohibits preferential treatment. So my concerns on school safety here apply to individuals in any demographic group, including those enumerated in your question. Protecting lives while respecting other fundamental human rights is essential. So-called gun-free zones were meant to protect children, but have had the opposite effect. A study of Crime Prevention Research Center found that from 1998 to 2015, 96.2% of the mass shootings took place in so-called gun-free areas. From 1950 to 2015, this figure rose to 98.4%. Despite these statistics, federal laws enacted in the 1990s designated schools as gun-free zones, making them more vulnerable. I would work with state legislators to remove schools from the list of prohibited locations for CPL holders, allowing responsible citizens to protect students. However, I support institutional autonomy and believe schools should retain the right to set their own gun policy. As for mental health, the CDC reports that early start times contribute to sleep deprivation, increased mental health risks, and American Academy of Pediatrics recommends schools start no earlier than 8:30 a.m. to align with adolescents' natural sleep cycles. While I support institutional autonomy, parents must know the risks early schedules pose for children's well-being.
Come this way. I got a room for you.
Thank you, candidates. And now we have Kathy with a question for our state school board candidates.
Hello, this is Catherine, senior at Skyline High School, located at Ann Arbor, Michigan. I also brought a question for our candidates for the state school board. Scotty, Adam, and Theodore will answer the questions in order. The question is, many school facilities in Michigan are in poor condition, and transportation for students has been a significant issue, along with many other challenges we face every day. What are your priorities for budgeting and spending to address students' need, and what is your vision for Michigan schools? So, Scotty, if you're ready, please go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, someone at the other forum was talking to me for a minute. What was the question?
The question is on this slideshow, and just to reiterate, it was many school facilities in Michigan are in poor condition, and transportation for school students has been a significant issue, along with many other challenges we face every day. What are your priorities for budgeting and spending to address students' need, and what is your vision for Michigan schools?
Okay, great. Yeah, it's unfortunate that the state seized control of school funding from local districts. The state government cannot effectively manage and prioritize the unique needs of every school. Decisions about building maintenance, school locations, and transportation are much better handled at the local level, where communities understand their own needs. Centralized control has led to a rigid one-size-fits-all system that's driving education downhill. Over-specialization leads to extinction, and our education system is no different. Breaking free from this top-down approach is essential for innovation and progress. Local control allows for greater flexibility, fostering diverse educational models that can adapt to unique challenges in each district. Ideally, funding for public education should be voluntary, not forced through taxation. While we may not be able to eliminate taxes right away, we can explore alternatives. For instance, expanding models like the Michigan Lottery, which contribute over $1 billion to education, would help reduce the tax burden. Additionally, families who choose private schools or homeschooling should be able to keep more of their income, allowing them to fund the education they choose without paying for services they don't use. As a state school board member, I will work with legislators to return budgetary and funding decision-making power to local communities, empowering parents and local districts to determine what's best for their students. This shift will foster real educational freedom and align funding and personal choice, not state mandate.
Catherine, am I up?
Yes, Era.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for the question. The concept around capital improvement for school buildings is one that is actually very, very much handled locally right now. And I think that's a real problem. I support the idea of creating a state categorical line item, so an item in the state budget to create greater equity around school building improvement. We cannot expect children and educators to want to be in buildings that are falling apart. We saw that when DPSCD was going through its restructuring in about 8 years ago or so, just the condition of some buildings. The reason this exists is because in 1994, when voters passed Proposal A, they excluded capital improvements to school buildings from that proposal. That proposal was meant to equalize funding. It has not totally lived up to that yet, but it has made dramatic improvements. Because capital improvements are not included, we have deep inequity from county to county. For example, there is a county up in the thumb of Michigan where $10 for by comparison to every $1 in the neighboring county is able to be raised for capital improvements because of the way the taxation structure is. That is a real problem. That type of inequity is structural. We have the ability to change that as state level policymakers, and we should.
Yep, thank you for that question. It really is something that's personal to me. When I was doing my dissertation for my doctorate in education, I actually studied 3 school districts and the effect that school buildings had on students' learning experiences. And, the students that lived that were educated in buildings that were of good quality or fair quality, all they needed to concentrate on was academics and the social aspect of school. And the students that were educated in the school building that was in disrepair, they not only had to concentrate on those aspects, but actively had to come up with strategies on how to navigate their school buildings. And this also has an effect on teachers as well and retention. So we really do need to make sure that we are putting extra funding available through a categorical where we can allow all school buildings to come up to at least a fair condition, and ensure also that we have additional funding for transportation as well, especially for rural districts. It's such a different problem set that they have with regard to transportation, that all of this needs additional funding from the state level.
Thank you all for cordial answers, and I have actually a follow-up question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I understood, a lot of you guys are saying that we're gonna have more fundings to improve the school buildings and transportation system. But what did you say?
Bye-bye.
Sorry, I'll continue. Yeah, but I feel like you guys are really missing how are we gonna make that work. I would love to hear more explanations about that. So if anyone has any idea, please let me know.
Catherine, just to answer your question, or trying to answer your question here, are you asking about where the additional funding would be coming from?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. So I support the idea of having a line item in the state budget where we put in additional funding. That's not going to happen by itself. In order to get to the funding levels that we need to create an equalization formula as well, which is it's a concept that is used in special education funding. And so the bottom line is we need more we need more funding in order to do it. And since all capital improvement funding is handled locally under current law, we need to change that so that wealthy communities like ours in Ann Arbor, I'm from Ann Arbor as well, can support communities that are not as wealthy, and that we don't have this deep inequity from community to community as it pertains to capital improvements in buildings. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you. If any other candidates have answer to this follow-up question, please speak up. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd like to agree with Adam as well. I just believe that the status quo is unacceptable. We need to elect leaders that are going to make this a priority. I think that is the correct first step to making sure that we are putting into place the funding that is going to bring all of our students' school buildings up to a fair, good condition. So, at the outset, I would say that just who you vote for, who you support, and having them share your values is going to be the first thing that we can do in the immediate term to get to a long-term solution.
Thank you. Scotty, feel free to speak up.
Yeah, I was just going to say that my thoughts about diversification and returning more control of funding to municipalities would provide answers that are right for them, rather than people, if I were to be elected, or any of the other candidates here running for that office being elected, are trying to make decisions at the local level as to the best way to fund programs. I think it's going to fall flat, because individual needs for individual districts are going to be different. Different communities have different requirements. They have different solutions that will work for them. Let them try it out. Let them be laboratories of innovation, and return control of the funding to the locality.
Thank you all for answers, and I will pass this to Jamie to speak again.
Jamie, your mic is mute.
Sorry about that. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you again to Catherine for that amazing question and the follow-ups. Finally, we would like to give all of the candidates here a chance to share one last time tonight. So we will start with John, followed by Ted, and then Scotty and Adam. Our final question for now is going to be, is there anything else that you want voters to know about you before we leave today?
Well, first, let me join everyone else in thanking you for allowing us to be here. I know that some of us from the alternative parties don't always get invited to all forums anyway. Glad to hear that Scotty and Ted had some entries to another forum tonight. I suppose it's the 100 Black Men of Detroit, probably. That's one I heard about, at least. I do hope that all of you who can vote do vote. Want to be sure that you know you have up to 2 votes in each of the 4 education board races. And by the way, there's some talk of having some of the people who are in the seats now, removed by the governor. I would have to say that as a lawyer and as an amateur psephologist, study of voting systems, it's not up to the governor to remove somebody who's been elected to a position statewide. If somebody wants to remove those people, they should be working on a recall. If you want to cast your 2 votes, you can vote a mostly straight party ticket, or you can split that ticket by picking 1 or 2 people in each candidate in each race to vote for, particularly even if they're not from your mostly preferred party, or you can mix your ticket, voting office by office. Please don't forget the nonpartisan offices and any local proposals. And one thing I mentioned in the chat before, it's good to know that if you have an emergency after the normal deadline for applying for an absentee ballot, you can ask your local clerk in writing for an emergency absentee ballot up to 4 p.m. on election day. That's section 759B of the election code, and I have a link to that again in the chat. My self-introduction has some information on my website and Facebook for the campaign. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I thank you all again, and I salute you for this effort. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having this great forum and having the opportunity to hear what you're passionate about, your points of view, and ways that we together can make our education system better. I will just say that one thing I would love for you all to take away from this experience, learning about me, is that I'm deeply passionate about education. I've been a practitioner, and I've seen education from a lot of great angles that are going to really help me to make good policy at the state level on the board if elected. But more than that, I alluded to the fact that I was a community organizer before, and I organized students and parents in schools, in Detroit public schools. So I think what you should know about me is I am someone who's deeply passionate about student voice. I believe that the best way for us to create strong, dynamic schools that fully educate every student is to make sure that you have a voice in the policies that are being made at the state level. So, I'm looking forward to this not being the last time that we speak, but if elected, you have my phone number. I'm going to be looking forward to hearing from you all through my term on ways that we can make our education system better and more responsive to what you need to get from your educational experience. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, next up, if Scotty wanted to answer that last question.
Okay. And here I am. Okay, I'm just trying to get it. Okay. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. I'm on the ballot as a libertarian, and some people believe voting for a minor party candidate is a waste. It is not. This is especially true in a close election like the one we're in today. If a libertarian gets more votes than the difference between the major party candidates, both of these parties will be attempting to capture those votes in the next cycle. And that means they will need to take a position on issues that is more attractive to a libertarian. Voting for a candidate that is only slightly less undesirable than the major party counterpart will just drive a race to the bottom. where all a candidate must do to win is not be as bad as the major party opponent. For example, let's say you oppose taxpayer funding of the bombings in Gaza. Neither Trump nor Harris are going to stop subsidizing this violence, whereas Libertarian Chase Oliver will. So if Trump or Harris win by only 1% in a deciding state, and if Chase Oliver got 2%, they would need to look at his libertarian views. And in this case, they may think twice about their support of foreign wars. So vote your hopes and not your fears. The only wasted vote is the one you don't believe.
Excellent. I think I'm up. Is that right, Jamie?
Yes, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. I too would just like to say thank you to everybody for hosting us tonight. I put my cell phone number in the chat as well. My email address is very easy as well. It's info@adamzemke.com. Please feel free to reach out, certainly during the campaign. But again, as Ted previously mentioned, I hope many years afterwards where we can engage on a joint policymaking agenda and experience. I would just like to say that I think that there are a lot of good ideas that have already been established for public education. What we are lacking is political will and courage to implement those things. I think we know what needs to be done to help students improve, to help improve the culture and the working environment for teachers and for school staff, and to make schools an inclusive and safe place. We need to ensure that those things are actually implemented. So it's a question of political will and electing folks who are willing to stretch those boundaries and make that happen. I've worked with the folks at MEJC and Student Advocacy Center around suspension and expulsion reform, around equitable funding improvements, and around a whole host of other issues over the last decade. And I understand your policy platforms are the policy platforms of those organizations, and I'm strongly supportive. So I too hope that you will vote an inspirational choice for both Ted and myself, Ted Jones and myself, for state school board. It is a very important race, and we have an opportunity to change the dynamic of public education as a whole by electing Ted and I to the school board. And so thank you. Please don't hesitate to reach out, certainly now between now and the election, and hopefully much more beyond the election as well. So thank you, and have a wonderful evening. Appreciate it.
All right, so we want to take a moment to thank all of our candidates for being here today. Thank you guys for your time and for your words. We really appreciate it. We hope everyone is able to stay with us for 25 more minutes to learn more about our MEJC youth and their experiences. But thank you guys.
Thank you.
And a huge shout out to the other students and adult allies who helped organize and present this forum. You all rock.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you to everyone in the audience as well. Please show some love in the chat and let us know that you're still here, you're still awake, you're still enjoying yourselves. Maybe get up, take a little stretch.
I hope you all learned something new today too.
Yes, we want everyone here to be educated voters. So now we are going to hear from our other co-chair, Janila, with an original poem about education before we continue with our student stories.
Janila,
Hey guys.
is your camera on, Janila?
No, it's not. Not
Are you
at all.
able to turn it on, or do you want to? Because I can only spotlight you if it's on, but it's okay if you don't want to turn it on.
I don't want to turn it on. You know, my picture's up there. That's how I look in real life too, guys.
Okay.
Okay. So this is an original poem by me. My name is Janila Young. I am a junior in high school. I go to a DPSCD school. So yeah, I was really in tune with the questions and answers. So I'll just get started. Education is not free. In fact, education is a company. It profits off me sitting in a desk, but I'm not given the right to literacy. You see, that will only benefit me. They expand and reform their systems at the cost of student education. They created a new wound while throwing a thin bandage on the first few. Seems like they created graves and used the same old dirt. I know I'm happy about the expansion of education, but I think I'm afraid of the ways I'm being left behind. I want those after me to be better, but I want the same opportunities. I would like to see a focus on those like me who who've experienced the roof over their dreams, a police force that greets them at every turn. They seem to arrive first at everything. And also the barrier between high school and university. Those who have been constantly failed by a system that we should trust. I want the right to literacy. I want updated representative books, clean bathrooms, technology that works, an equitable chance to prove that I am a worthy student beyond my color and gender, really my intersectionality. I wish for access, so I didn't have to lead the fight for student rights. I tend to wonder what would happen once we get what we want. Now that I'm graduating, now everything you fought for will never be given to you, but hopefully your children, right? Or maybe we will hand them the torch and they will continue to run with our fire because they will have to fight too. We hope that someone somewhere down the line reaps benefits, but how do we know for sure? I guess we hope our fight is coming to fruition. We hope our torch doesn't wash up to shore. The governor wants to expand education, but at what cost? I thought it would be inflation. I thought it would be inflation or based on how much things cost, but now I can see I was wrong. So I sit in my chair, ask questions, and fight for what is not there. So maybe my kids can experience something other than the failure of a system that constantly shows that it doesn't care. We know it starts at home, but it is continued through the walls of our schools. We may have a foundation, but we need the tools to create the house. Never garnered the chance to read, forgiving the weight of oppression. Like a banned book, I'm telling my truth. I support making education free, but you lose my vote when you do this without fixing the things within our institutions. Now you have a plethora of students who can't read. We are somewhere to learn something that they do not know, but the system fails to hold up the equation for quality educational success.
Good job, Janila. That was beautiful.
And can we get some more love in the chat for our co-chair? That was a phenomenal poem, and thank you so much for your words.
So now we're shifting gears to our story of self-breakout. These are stories that everyone in the Youth Collective has been working on together. They encourage us to think about our own experiences and how we connect to our schools and communities.
Everything is connected, so we are going to explore a few current issues that our students face today and how they relate to our education. Our storytellers are going to be Abby, Nafisa, and Shauda, and we will break out into small groups for about 10 minutes to listen and chat about what we've heard.
This is your chance to really listen to each other and think about your own stories too.
And after the student stories, feel free to ask questions or share your own experiences and how they connect in the chat.
Let's make the most of this time to connect and learn from one another.
All right, so let's get started with making those breakouts.
Give me like 1 minute and I will have the breakouts ready to go. Probably.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for those breakouts, put in the chat, what's been your favorite part so far? I'm curious. I love a good poem. So, Janila, I loved your spoken word. But also I loved how interactive our candidates were with our students and how interactive everybody's been in the chat. Yep, and also please feel free take a 1 minute potty break. Go ahead, grab something to drink, grab a snack, come back in 1 minute. This is a great time to stretch those legs, get some cardio going.
Let's see. Drew, you're going to join room 2. I think you're a co-host, so I can't move you.
Got it.
I think that's what's going on is some people are co-hosts, and so it's not letting me add them. Give me just a moment. And Imani, you're going to join room 3.
Yep.
And all right, I'm going to open up rooms for, is it 10 minutes, Imani?
Yep, 10 minutes. And while we're in there, after we listen to our student stories, again, feel free to ask some questions about their stories, engage, share your own stories. We also have students who are part of our MUJC Youth Collective who will be in the room with you. So again, engage with us, talk with us.
Yep, so you're going to be hearing from 3 of our youth, Shauda in room 1, Abby in room 2, and Nafisa in room 3. And I'm going to go ahead and open up all the rooms.
Hello, I am Nafisa Tazrin. Um, and I'm 14 and I live in Detroit, and today I am going to share a self story. I'm currently attending Cass Technical High School. As a student attending a diverse public school in Michigan, it raises my concern on how there is discrimination on religious holidays. For instance, we get a 2-week break for Christmas. However, as a Muslim student, I don't get one day off for Eid. This takes me back to the time when the PSCD gave us 3 days off for 2021. But that was just for 1 year, as they decided not to do that for the rest, which should not be the case since I attend a school where a vast population of students are Muslim. Thus, we should get days off for Eid every year. Furthermore, it also brings my concern towards the lunch for students with dietary restrictions. As a Muslim, I have to follow the halal diet. However, at my school, we get the same exact food almost every day for vegetarian and halal options. Thus, there should be more options for people with dietary restrictions. Which also brings me to the fact that some of these dietary restrictions are not taken seriously. For example, the person serving food at my school cross-contaminates halal food with haram, which they don't have a choice in since there is no other person to serve the food that's not halal. This issue could have been easily fixed if there were different people serving each type of food. I feel like dietary restrictions should be taken seriously. Besides the issues concerning discrimination, we have serious problems with transportations for school. My sister and I have to pay $80 a week for a ride just to attend a public school, which is affecting my family financially. As a student, I think we should be provided with public transportation such as school bus to attend a public school. That's all for my story.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It was really cool seeing you and all the other youth in the collective write their stories, and your final product was really good. So thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Navisa, I have a question since we have 4 minutes left. I'm just curious, um, do you plan on sharing this story in other places in the future?
Yes, for well, like a specific part for the religious holiday, we're planning to get from my fellowship. I'm in one of the fellowship called My Student's Dream, and we're trying to get Eid off next year on the calendar. So we're going to speak to, I think, our school board members, and we're going to like decide on why we need these days off. And as that I attend a school where it's like a lot of people are Muslim, and we do need these days off because we shouldn't be having a absence in our record just because we cannot attend school because of a religious holiday, and it should be given off. So yeah, I'm going to share the specific part about getting religious holidays off on when we talk to the school board members about getting days off for Eid.
I had a question. I had put it in the chat. This is Danielle Williams. I'm with One Love Global. I recently moved from a school district where they stopped providing busing to the students, and so they give them the option, excuse me, to either have a bus card or they provide the family with a gas card. What alternative sort of transportation options do you guys have since you don't have busing?
Um, since we don't have busing, they do give free bus passes for like city bus, but it's not very safe in the morning. It's very dark, and standing there in the stop is not very safe, and sometimes transfer buses are late, so we'll be late to the school, which is not very reliable. And other alternates, like students have to find it themselves if their parents cannot drive them, which is like paying really expensive amount. Like me and my sister have to pay $80 a week just to go to school.
I've also noticed that with the change, the students that are busing, there has been an uptick in violence, and also in students not attending school regularly. Do you notice those sorts of trends within your community?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Nafisa, thank you for sharing your story. You raise some really, really huge issues, and most of them go back to how education is funded, not only in Detroit or in the state, but around the country. And most of those issues are really finance driven. The idea of the one thing that should be done is that absences should not be just same plain absences for religious reasons. They should be excused absences. And now, with the advent of online learning and things, class credits can be made up should be able to be made up easily for a time missed in class. But that's one thing that I think that you should really be pushing for is making those absences excused, technically excused absences. But the other is just getting everybody you can together to advocate for a redistribution of resources to make some of these things that you've brought up. They're very important, but money is going to solve many of them, and money is what people want to argue about most. So I would just say, everybody get together and really make that point and elect people who are going to make it happen.
Hey, y'all, welcome back.
Hey, and I know we got cut off in our room, so if that happened to y'all, please feel free to continue the conversation in the comment section or in the chat.
I accidentally left the room earlier, so but it was great.
All right, I think Jamie and Christina, are y'all gonna close us out?
Yep, let's get our slides up and we'll get going.
All right. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Those stories were so powerful, and thank you guys so much for being able to share your experiences. And they really highlight why it is that we're actually here.
Before we go, let's learn about these candidate positions and how they affect our students and schools.
As future voters and leaders, it's important for all students to understand how these governing bodies work and their impact on our education.
All right, let's break down what a state board member actually does.
So, these board members are super important for our public schools in Michigan. They help set the rules and the policies that will affect our education directly.
Here's what they're responsible for: making policies, keeping an eye on things, and speaking up for us.
Easy enough, right?
Next up, let's talk about the role of the Board of Trustees at colleges and universities.
So, the Board of Trustees is basically the group that's in charge of overseeing the colleges and the universities. They help guide the direction of the school.
Here's what they do: managing money, setting rules, planning for the future.
And for us high school students, their decisions can really impact things for us, like college readiness programs and dual enrollment options, which are super important for our transition to higher education.
Oh, and don't forget, the statewide ballot includes candidates from Wayne State, Michigan State, and the University of Michigan. Be sure to check your local ballots for candidates from your home colleges and universities.
This is all super important information to keep in mind when you're voting, and remember to flip that ballot and vote on both sides.
And here are those important dates again. For those of you still making a vote, plan and explore all the voting options available to you as Michigan voters, like absentee voting for college students, or early voting if you have a busy schedule on election day.
And we hope that you're able to take the stories and concerns that you heard here today straight to your voting booth.
All right, before we go, I'd like to remind you all to sign up for the 2024 Education Justice Voters Pledge. The link's in the chat. Sign up and tell us what you can commit to.
Yes, can you commit to doing things like voting for local candidates who will prioritize education justice for all of our students, collecting petition signatures with us in 2025 to support fully funding our schools, attending a training on how to coordinate with others in your school community, and even joining your local education justice organization? You could talk to 5 different people about our down ballot races, like school board and city council, and remind them to flip the ballot. Any contribution is a contribution. And don't forget that our Education Justice Get Out the Vote phone bank is currently being hosted by MEJC, and everyone here could go and sign up right now.
We'll give you a minute to check out those links and get involved.
Yes, and so those links are dropped in the chat if y'all are interested in checking them out. So thank you guys so much for being a part of our Student Strong Statewide Candidate Forum today.
Fantastic. Remember to stay student strong because as youth activist Malala said, when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful.
So everyone, let's keep fighting for the education that we deserve. And I hope you all have an amazing night. And that's all I got.
Thank you. That was
Go.
Great job, guys.
yes.
Shout out to our co-hosts.
Yes. Christina and Jamie are the dream team.
Excellent job. Definitely future leaders.
Absolutely.
Current leaders.
Current leaders, yes.
Current leaders, that's right.
Come on,
Exactly.
Chris.
Leaders right now.
Yeah, shout out to Janila. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Shouta. Shout out to Nafisa. All great stories. All of our youth have made stories of their own as well. So please keep interacting with us to hear more about our student stories and more about what we're doing in the future.
Bye, everyone. Have a
Thank you so much.
Yes. Also, shout out Lindsay.
Yes, Lindsay
I'm a
doing
Zoom
so
guy.
much.
Lindsay.
Doing too much, doing so much.
It was
Giving
in
that
the back with
dedication.
the I just think about Monsters Inc.